Welcome to the Elokus podcast, and this is class number 4 in the discourse Mimana Afar Yakov, 5672, which is the 8th discourse in the overall book, B'Shosha Ekdimu, 5672, and this again is class number 4 in Mimana, which overall in the entire, and it's the 4th chapter in chapter 29 in the book. And I counted yesterday. From time to time, I like to get a count. We are in class 152 since the beginning of this project. This is the 152nd Elokus podcast. Yeah, it's exciting. Okay. So we were learning yesterday the 3 levels that the light emerges. The Sefirot emerge from their very, very birth. They're birthed inside the Ein Sof. And in that state, we say upon them, Antu chad v'lo b'chushban, you are one and not countable. So we're referring to, as he explained over here, that this is not referring to you yourself. It's referring to the you as God emerges later to become as the divine energies emerge to become the source for creation and for the world. God, as he is already emerging in an image of Sefirot, of attributes and so forth. But over here, we're talking about the very quintessential beginning of that, when it is still completely unified, submerged, and one with the Ein Sof. And at that point, even though the Sefirot are there, the attributes are there, but they're not in any way separated from Hashem, and therefore they're not just not separated, they're not even detectable, they're not even noticeable. We don't even see that. We don't see 10. We only see a oneness. And that's the meaning. And the oneness is one of essence. It's not like something that was already once countable as many and then later returns back into a state of oneness, but like a state of oneness that never ever emerged into its many expressions and variations. Like we discussed yesterday, the difference between the powers of the soul before they were ever animated, or the power of the variations of a person's movements, power to move their fingers in so many different ways, to be able to do all types of artistic artistic work, or any type of movement, right? So many different types. So there is that state before the person ever used their power. It's that so then all this potential talent and abilities are all absolutely one with the soul. They're not yet detectable as various different talents. And there is a later state, which we said that when even after you do express them after a day's work, and let's say a person has many different types of work that they do with their hands, they're a handyman. Sometimes they do plumbing, and sometimes they do electrical work. They have these people that are a know-it-all type of people. Every type of thing you need, they can fix. They do appliance repair, and they do roofing, and they do painting, and they do exterminating. It's like everybody has one person on their phone book that when you need any type of job and you can't reach the plumber, the electrician, the thing, you reach this person that they can do everything. So a person like that, after they finish doing their whole bunch of different calls, this handyman who was on 17 different jobs in one day, each one requiring a different talent of movement, a different type of stroke of their hands. And when they go to sleep at night, all these powers gather back into their pool of their source. But yet, if one is to look into that pool, you will be able to see the power of the particular one of those particular powers floating inside the greater pool. So they're unified, but they're still unified in a way where the many are coming back into one. We explained yesterday that's the level of Echad, where many unify. But then there's a level of Yachid, where Yachid means singular. So that, it's prior and before you even get to many. And then everything, all the futuristic variations are just one. And that's the state of this Esespheres, Antuchad. That's the first state. Today he's going to deliver the second state, when these Esespheres Agnuzais emerge outward and express themselves already. So that and then it becomes already countable that you can count 10 spheres. But before we continue on to the second stage of the lights, we have a parenthesis that we skipped yesterday. I'm going to go back. So he said that on this level of the 10 Esespheres Agnuzais, this is the level on where these 10 hidden sphirot, as they're still submerged in the Ein Sof, upon this level that we say, Antuchad, you are one. So he's going to challenge that in this parenthesis. Again, this is on Daf Memches, for those who are using this version of the Ayin Beis. Again, it's a middle of chapter. This is probably just about smack in the middle of the chapter 29. So there's a parenthesis like this. El Perek Chavdalid Nizbar. Now, in earlier chapter 24, we're in chapter 29 now. So 4 chapters ago, which was probably about 25 classes ago. So you have to. Over there, he has explained the that in the second level of the Ein Sof, when we say second level, I mean in that state where there is already a arousal of the desire for creation in the Ein Sof, or the level that he refers to as Hasha'ara, where there is an estimation. In that level, and that's called Sharshei Ha'oros, the roots of the lights. Over there is a combination of all the different names of God. It means that over there, I'll give you, I'll trigger a reminder for those who were with us back then. Over there, we were discussing how when you take many letters and you that was right after he introduces the mashal, the analogy of a word baruch, which means blessed. He says there is each letter individually. When you take the letters and you put them all together as in one word, and then you have a much deeper meaning, the meaning of the word. So he was using that as an analogy, that when each of these sphirot, the 10 hidden sphirot, come forth and are revealed, they are revealed one at a time. Once they're revealed one at a time, it's individual letters. And therefore, their potency and their power is way reduced and inferior to when all the Esespheros were still in their source, because they were then all 10 together making up one word. And then a much higher level is then present over there. So he asked the question, how can we speak about letters over here? We're talking about lights. If we would be talking about Kalim, about the vessels. No, vessels are letters. How can we even give an example when we're talking about the source of lights? How is this even an example for our subject matter over here? He was trying to explain that. I'm not going to go into it, but part of that discussion he mentioned was that there is this in addition. So there is lights, there is the oiros, and then there is kalim, vessels, and there's something between. You might remember this. Between the lights and the vessels is the concept of a name. And we used an example on a human being. You have an neshama, you have a soul, you also have a body. Our soul is our energy, our light. Our body is our vessel. But it's not just these two. There is also the name of the person. And the name of a person serves as some kind of a facilitator and mediator between the soul and the body. So the same he explained was that in the lights itself, there is something called the names of God. Okay, well, this is all sidetrack. I don't want to lose your focus over here. But in that discussion, he explained that does God have a name? Is there a name in the Orein Sof? Or generally we say the names of God are always associated to the Sfirot, to the attributes. And that's only later. Once Hashem is emanating in Chachma, then he has one name. He's emanating in Bina, he has another name. Chesed, another name. All the various different names are Hashem's lights emanating through the Sfirot. When the Orot are developed or invested in the Kalim, in the vessels, that's where we have names. But how about if we trace the lights all the way back to the Orein Sof? Is there any name to God? God is then sitting alone. So we have the general idea where it says, Kodim Shenivra Olam, before the world was created, Yahu Shmoi Bilvad. God and his name was alone. And before the world was created, as explained in many places, means before the first Tzimtzum. Even before the first Tzimtzum Arishon, there is the idea that God and his name were alone. That there's a name there. So there is a concept of name. Behold it. But we're saying now that there are 10 Sfirot hidden, at least in the second level of the Orein Sof. Second level means once there is an Alos HaRatzon, an arousal of a will, there's already some kind of a hidden germinating of 10 Sfirot. Well, if the 10 Sfirot have names, are there names? So he explained that, yeah. And that's the many names of God that are hidden in the Orein Sof. Later, when they come out, he says each name is individual. Each name, because the sphere is individual, the attribute is individual, the name is individual. And therefore, the potency of energy that's in that name is much weaker. But in the 10, in the Essa Sphera Sagnuzai state, when they're all still unified, so it's like all the various names of God all unified as one name. In other words, the many names are integrated all together. And that's what he discussed, and therefore far more potent than an individual name of God. Again, if you want to go back to chapter 24, you can look them up and listen to the classes then and get this clarity. But it's not so important for the whole discussion of it. But the challenge that he's asking himself, that he's challenging his notion that he said before, was we had just learned that the Essa Sphera Sagnuza is that the level of Essa, on that we say, Antuchad, you are one. If we're saying regarding that level, you are one, and Veloy B'chujban, there's no 10. Because even though there are 10 Sphirot over here, they're so all one, like the powers of movement, the power of carpentry and the power of woodworking and the power of playing musical, the movements of musical of a musician and the talent of a chef. All these talents that one has in their hands are all absolutely one in this state, and therefore we say it's Chad. If so, how can you say many names? It's one name. We say it's plural. We said over there. When do we say, and in that little piece we explain, when do we say that God only has one name, not many? That's on a higher level. That's on the level of Or Ein Sof A. Remember? When the higher level of the Or Ein Sof. The higher level of the Or Ein Sof, when it's on the level of Sfirot Ein Kates, where there is infinite Sfirot, but the infinite Sfiros is one singular power. There's no beginnings of leaning to this or to that. It's just pure pshitus. It's utterly simple with utter simplicity. On that level, we say it's Hashem has one name. Once Hashem desires already 10 Sfirot, even though these 10 Sfirot are hidden, it's already the level of many names. So that's what he's asking. If we're saying that in the 10 Sfiros, in the Essa Spheros Agnuzais, in the 10 hidden Spheros, even before they're emanated outward, while they're still like a fetus inside the Or Ein Sof, when these 10 hidden Spheros are still like Shorshei Ha'oros in the Or Ein Sof. We are saying over here that in that level, we're learning over here, it's called Antuchad, you are one. V'loi b'chushban, there is no number. And yet we learned a few chapters ago that the level of God being one with only having one name is a level higher than this. But in this level, there's already many names. So how do we fit these two things together with what he's saying now? Now he's saying that Antuchad, you are one, is we can't even count 10 on this level. So then it would only have one name. That's his challenge. Well, El Perek of Dalnas Bar, the Baloy Saratzain, that in the level called Alos Haratzon. What's Alos Haratzon? The secondary level of the Or Ein Sof. Hu B'china Shemos. It's plural names. Lashon Rabbi, many. So how can we say now that it's Chad? So it now seems to be a contradiction. And he's going to give us the classic answer of Chassidus. Now you have to be able to deal with this answer. This is the classic answer you're going to get probably 1,000 times in this book. We're going to be learning this for the next 30 years, so it's okay, maybe even more than 1,000 times. Now what's going to be the answer? I'll say it in Yiddish, because every Chassid who learned Chassidus knows this answer and chuckles when he hears it, because it's like, oh yeah, okay, I surrender. What's the answer? The answer in Yiddish is es wenn sich wie man redt. Translate that into English. Depends on where we're talking. That means everything is relative. That's really the answer. You're right. Basically, you can see, you're right. It's a contradiction. But what's the answer? It's not a contradiction. Why? Because it depends on what we're talking about. When we are speaking about the light before the tzimtzum, and we're exploring, in other words, our subject matter is Or Ein Sof, infinite light. Then we have to recognize that within the infinite light, it's very nuanced. And there is various levels within the Or Ein Sof. And then we come to the conclusion, when we are measuring the various different levels in the Or Ein Sof itself, then yes, we say what he said in chapter 24 earlier, that the state of the Sfirot, of the Esa Sfirot, the 10 Sfiros Hagnuzais, which is what he calls over here, Alois Haratzon, the arousal of the will, which is the second, is considered then a low level, and over there we can already speak of many names. We say many. You're right. Because compared to the higher levels, compared to the level of the pure Or Ein Sof that's higher than that, where there's no Sfiros at all, and we're going to see now, and compared to an even higher stage than that, which we're going to see in a moment, this is considered the tail end of the Or Ein Sof, and therefore over here we can call it many names. That's when we are comparing one level to another level within the Or Ein Sof itself. But the Rebbe is saying now, that's not what I'm talking about in this chapter. In this chapter, we're tracing the 3 levels of the light. The light as it exists before the tzimtzum, the light as it exists after the tzimtzum, before they go into vessels, and then the lights when they go into vessels. These are the 3 levels. When we are measuring already, in other words, when our analysis that we're doing includes before the tzimtzum and after the tzimtzum, in other words, we're counting 3 levels. One is before the tzimtzum, before the contraction. One is after the contraction, and one is another level lower after the contraction. When then compared to the post tzimtzum, everything that's before the tzimtzum is considered pure oneness. There's only singularity. There's only oneness. To forget about many. There is no many. There is only one singular essence of the Ein Sof. Nothing else exists. Because compared to the differentiations and the beginning of Ischalkut of definitions that exist after the Tzimtzum, everything that's before the Tzimtzum is on the highest, deepest, most strongest level of one. There's not many at all. Singular, singular, singular. If you want to do a surgery, and a very delicate surgery, and you want to go scuba diving into the Or Ein Sof before the Tzimtzum, and not measuring before the Tzimtzum compared to after the Tzimtzum. You're just analyzing pre-Tzimtzum. Then there's many levels. And then the very level that we said now is hands down singular one. There's no many. There's only one name. No. You'll find that over here as well. This is considered many names because there's much higher levels within the Or Ein Sof where to them it is applicable that there's only one name and even higher than that. So it depends which laboratory you're in. If you're in the laboratory of pre-Tzimtzum, then this level that we're talking about now is actually considered a low level in the Pri Tzimtzum. It's a level of the Or Ein Sof that is already considering the world. Oh, and then there's Eser Sfiros. There's 10. And then we say regarding their 10 that, this is many names. Because when you compare it to the higher levels of the Or Ein Sof, and even higher in the Or Ein Sof, then this is considered already very, you can see details over here. In comparison to the levels higher than this. However, but when you're in a different laboratory, when you're in the laboratory where you are analyzing Pri Tzimtzum, compared to the post-Tzimtzum, what comes after, and then when it comes after much lower levels, then of course, his chalkut, pluralism, manyism, whatever it is, it's all after the Tzimtzum. Before the Tzimtzum, it's all blanket oneness. That's his answer. Again, so how is it that we say that it's chad, it's simple, it's one? Yeah, is the Or Ein Sof shalifnei hatzimtzum. In the levels of Or Ein Sof before the tzimtzum, when you are comparing one to the other, this level is called Malchut to Ein Sof. It's called already many and so forth. And he's going to prove it. He's going to show you he's going to bring now from a book of the Mittler Rebbe. He's going to quote now the Shar HaYichud from his great grandfather, second Chabad Rebbe, the Mittler Rebbe, where on that level, where the Mittler Rebbe in a certain Maamor discourse refers to this level that we're going to speak now, the level of Esas Firis Agnuzos, as not even. We said there's levels of Yachid singular, Echad. What's Echad? Echad is a much weaker level is one, but a weaker level of one. It's one as a unification of many things becoming unified. And that's the lower level. And then there's even something lower than that, which you can't even apply the concept of oneness. And it's called Kadmon. Kadmon means primordial. And you're not even calling this level one because you can't even, not only are you not calling it singular, you're not even calling it one because it's lower even than one. So the Mittler Rebbe goes on to explain there are three levels: Yachid, Echad, and Kadmon. And the level that we are speaking about now, the Malchut to Ein Sof, where Hashem has already a ratzon, a will for creating, for creating. It's before the Tzimtzum, but the level where he says you not only can't you say on it Yachid, you can't even say on it Echad. It's below Echad. It's Kadmon. We're going to see that in a moment what that means, but hold it. We are arguing over here in the Maamor that this level that we're talking about now, the beginning of the Eser Sfirot, is called Yachid. Chad is one with Yachid. And the Mittler Rebbe says, it's not only is it not Yachid, not only is it not singular, you can't even refer to it as a Chad. At best, you can say it's Kadmon. How does that work? Because the Mittler Rebbe is operating in a different laboratory. Or he's looking through a different telescope. He's looking at a much greater universe. He's looking at much higher levels, and on those, when he's doing his analysis, he's analyzing way above. As he's going to explain now, from that perspective, this level that we are talking about now, which we are calling it Chad Yachid, the Mittler Rebbe doesn't even give it the term Echad. Let alone Yachid, it's very far from Yachid. He calls it only Kadmon. Because he's analyzing Pri Tzimtzum levels. But in our discussion right now, when we are analyzing not the various different levels of Pri Tzimtzum, we are trying to trace the light through three major evolutions. As the lights exist before the Tzimtzum, as the Oros exist after the Tzimtzum, but before they go into the vessels, and then finally when they go into the vessels. When you are looking at it from this perspective, then that level, which we couldn't even apply oneness to, not only are we applying oneness to it compared to the lower levels, but we're not even calling it one, we're calling it singular, because everything is so unified. That's the answer that he gives. So simple words, as we say in Yiddish, Venzach v'meret. It's dependent on which level we're talking. As he says. So look in Shar HaYichud, the portal of oneness, famous book of the Mittler Rebbe, Perek Yud Aleph, chapter 11, Be'inyan, when he's discussing the concept of Yachid, singular, Echad, one, the Kadmon, and primordial. And he says like this, the Yachid, the level of Yachid, who etzem ha'or, is the essence of the light. The essence of the light doesn't even mean, remember we spoke before, the Or Ein Sof, the infinite light, Spheros Ein Kates, without, that's not even essence of the light. That's the revelation of the light. He discusses the difference between the essence of the light and the revelation of the light. So this that we say, actually we had, if you remember in one of the classes we mentioned this. I'll remind you, because for those who will allow themselves to be remembered. But I recall this right now. I remember even we were learning once that the concept that we say about God, that there is spherois en kates, that the origins of a spherois, that we're replying sphirot, that already is somewhat of a definition. Even if we say spherois en kates, it's already something. And really Hashem, the Or Ein Sof, is even higher than spherois. Not even Atzmos. The Or Ein Sof is higher than spherois, even of the spherois en kates. What is that? That level is the essence of the light. On the essence of the light, we can't even say spheros en kates. That light doesn't reveal itself. It's the essence of. And therefore, on that level is what the Mittler Rebbe says applies to say Yachid, utterly singular. There's nothing other than just pure oneness. Then the next level, let's read inside. The Yachid hu etzem ha'or, she'eina b'bchinas gilui adayin, is not even revealed to himself. It's the essence of the light. It's like the light of the sun while it's still in the sun. It's the light of the essence of God while it's still inside of him, not even at all revealing itself. The echad, and then there is the light of the Or Ein Sof, when it does, so to speak, emerge into revelation. And the level of spherois en kates, that level. So the Mittler Rebbe says over there, the echad hu agilui is the revelation. The b'chinas klalis, but a general revelation, which means before he gets down into being a source for specifics. It's the general, it's the Or Ein Sof with an infinite potential. Ubeb'chinas pshitos. And on that level, it's utterly simple. That's the second level. That's what we were referring to. This level of what the Mittler Rebbe is talking about is what we were referring to for our discussion purposes throughout all the classes as Or Ein Sof A. We now find out that it's not Or Ein Sof A, it's actually Or Ein Sof B. Because the Or Ein Sof A is the light while it's still in the source. That's A. Or Ein Sof that has infinite potential, can be spherois en kates and all that, that's Or Ein Sof B. And actually the light, the Esespheres Agnuzais, that should really be called Or Ein Sof 3, a C, the third level of the Or Ein Sof. Okay, in any case. And on this second level, there is where we say Echad. Because you can mention Spheres en kates without an end possibility. But you're seeing already a possibility for this, even though it's all one still. But the fact that you can talk about variations of potential, of expressions, of power, is already, you're talking about many. Many as it is in one. And then lower than that is once the light already decided that it's going to reveal itself to an audience, to a recipient, then it narrows itself down to a potential for 10. That you can't, then you're feeling 10 already. He says. You can't even call it echad anymore. But what you could call it still primordial, because it's still before existence, before creation. Before even creation begins. But kadmon, the Or Ein Sof, on this level, we say it's kadmon, it's before everything. And the Mittler Rebbe says, hu hashara b'koach. That's when there is a hashara, an estimation to create, that's called kadmon. So based on what the Mittler Rebbe is saying, so the Rebbe is now furthering his question, comes out, the echad v'kadmon, that the two lower levels, echad and kadmon, again, there's three levels, yachid, echad v'kadmon. So echad v'kadmon, zehu, what are these two levels? koydem alos haratzon, before the Or Ein Sof, before it has a desire for worlds, meaning on a level that it's pre-desire for creation. That's called echad. Ubchenes alos haratzon, and once there is the alos haratzon, there is the arousal of the will. Then that's called kadmon. That's kadmon. So hold it. Now we're making the argument over here that the Esa Spheres Agnuza is the 10 hidden spheres, which we are now calling kadmon. We're saying over here, this is what it says in Pasach Eliyahu, in the passage of the Zohar, Antuchad, you are one. You are completely one. And the Mittler Rebbe is not even say, it says, when you talk about, you can't say it's singular, you can't even say, so how does that work? So he says, yeah, it depends what. When we are talking in the Or Ein Sof itself, the various levels of Or Ein Sof, on those standards, on the standards of the Or Ein Sof, Lifnei Tzimtzum, the level of 10 spheres that are hidden is considered already that the Or Ein Sof is pregnant, if you might say, with 7 children. It has already something, a spherot or 10 spheres that are going to come out. It's already a mother and children. It's already something else. I mean, God forbid. But I'm saying it in concept. There's already something. And therefore, you can't say on it, not echad, for sure not yachid, and not echad. Barely say kadmon. Not barely. Kadmon you can say. But when we are comparing and we're analyzing not pre-tzimtzum, we're analyzing the 10 hidden spheres, how they compare to the 10 spheres after the tzimtzum. The root of the lights, which is this estimation, that are still included in atzmus, this meaning they're included in the Or Ein Sof, before they were revealed. Of course, we can say on it that it's the level of Yachid, which on this it says, Antuchad, you are one. So this is the parentheses. I thought we would actually continue going on to the second level, but I guess this parentheses itself took a whole class. So Be'ez Hashem, tomorrow we will continue and exploring the 3 levels that we mentioned earlier. First level is Or Ein Sof, the Esa Spheres Agnuzos. Second level is when they come out, and that's going to be tomorrow's class. And then finally, the third level when they go into the vessels. Okay, Be'ez Hashem.